Anyways, so this dude was like, how do you even fucking approach that character without doing some type of Jack Nicholson impression? And apparently he was like facing away from Heath Ledger when he did it, and Heath Ledger just goes. It's good, dude.
You're adjusted. You're good.
I'm good. I'm waiting on you.
That's good that you're good because we in.
We in, baby.
We in. It's time. It's time for another episode of the Chris and Kyle Show. He is Chris. I am Kyle. And this is aforementioned show. You like that?
No.
Yeah, you're gonna have to edit that laugh later. That was a loud.
That was really loud.
Yeah, that was a loud one. Welcome everybody. Welcome to the show. Happy November. I hope everyone had a great Halloween. And I hope everyone is killing the first few days here of NaNoWriMo.
Oh, shit.
Now, full disclosure. In real time, it is not November yet.
It is
Halloween. We are recording on Halloween, so we are not yet participating in NaNoWriMo. But when this releases, I think it's going to be like November 5th or something. Mm-hmm. So we will be by then.
I mean, I kind of sort of half started, you know, like I started,
true.
like I downloaded Scrivener, bought and downloaded Scrivener. I read a whole book on how to outline a novel and shit like that.
Book, wow.
It wasn't that big of a book.
For
like
people
it took me multiple weeks, but like you could sit down and read it within like an hour and a half.
For people who don't know, what is Scrivener?
Scrivener is basically a word processing software that a lot of people use to write novels. Mm-hmm. On there, there's also templates for writing fiction, nonfiction, as well as scripts, which I'm still not going to use it for script writing because Final Draft is the industry standard, and I'm going to continue to use it.
Scrivener, by the way, you have to pay for, right?
Yes. So I don't think that they offer any kind of subscription. Well, no, they offer a trial, but there's no like. At first, I thought it was like a subscription-based payment method. Okay. So you pay $9 a month or whatever, but it's not like that. It's a one-time thing.
Forever or once a year, and just forever.
You have it.
Okay.
And you have it for forever.
Do you have thoughts so far? You haven't done. I
haven't actually used it. The only thing that I've really done with it is. Like I've done a lot of research on how to use it. It seems really intuitive. Yeah. If you've used any kind of word processing software before, it's probably a little bit more complicated than Word is on the surface. Okay, so
based on just what you've seen so far, what are the differences and advantages to using something like Scrivener over just opening up Microsoft Word?
So I would say that organization is really big. You can organize your chapters really well so that within the software itself, you can have multiple chapters and then open up multiple documents. You can color code things really easily, which I know how hard your dick gets for a color coding. But yeah, I haven't used it to actually write anything yet.
You'll start tomorrow.
But I'll start tomorrow. And it's going to be a fucking uphill battle for me. I don't know about you. Because you are a lot more comfortable with writing prose than I am.
I'm not comfortable writing in script format.
Yeah, we're like sort of opposite. The polar opposites. Yeah. I find it so easy to write.
I think the thing about scripts that makes it hard for me is literally the format. I just haven't read many scripts and I haven't written many, so it's just I'm not used to the format.
I haven't read enough scripts, as much scripts as I should. Mm-hmm. I don't read a lot. No, I won't. As much as I write, I write way more than I read. At least,
but you've also read books on how to write scripts.
At least
stuff,
narrative. Right? So I don't read a lot of fiction books. I read a shit ton of I would say 95% of everything that I read is nonfiction.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah,
it's a big percentage. I would say that less than 1% of what I read is
nonfiction. Really?
Wait, do things like reading articles and stuff count as nonfiction?
Yeah, sure. If you want to throw
then
that
probably
in there.
like less than like 30% or something. Okay. I read a lot of like articles.
Yeah, I mean, a sports article is still nonfiction.
Or movie news, stuff like that. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I read nonfiction in that sense, but I don't read like books on how to do things.
But as far as the books that you read,
stuff, I don't read anything that's not fictional, which is confusing because I don't mean nonfiction. Why do they got to do it like that?
I don't know.
When you were a kid, did the term nonfiction turn you off to reading nonfiction?
No. The idea of nonfiction turned me off, not the label itself.
I think that's probably part of it.
Yeah.
But the label itself made me be like, I don't want to do that. It's not fiction.
It's not fiction.
Yeah. Plus, I was like, wait, what's fiction? And they were like, fiction is like made up stuff. I was like, oh, that stuff's cool.
Right. Yeah.
And then it was like, not. I was like, realness.
I definitely read a lot more stuff. I definitely read a lot more fiction when I was younger. So I was thinking about this today. So on my NaNoWriMo page, right, you can put in what your favorite book is.
Yeah.
And
did you put something stupid?
Dude, no. Here's the thing. I went full hipster and I put The Stranger by Albert Camus, which was the last fiction book that I read. Right, it's a fucking existentialist novel written by Albert Camus, and I legit don't know what that book's about. I read it, but I don't get it. I don't enjoy the book, but I wrote that it's my favorite book because I didn't want to put like Holes by Louis Satcher.
You want to know what I put?
I didn't want to seem like a total.
You want to know what I put? Harry Potter.
Of course you did.
I put Harry Potter.
Of course you did. But like I don't even.
That's not even a book. That's a series of books.
It's a series of books. But it's still understandable that if you put Harry Potter, people are like, okay.
I don't know because.
But you're a more legit Harry Potter fan, to where you feel like you can claim it.
Yeah. Well, I certainly feel like I can claim it. My thing is, I felt when I was filling that out, I was like, is it like, am I going to be like laughed at?
Because
Harry
Potter, yeah.
Is it like
because you want to seem legitimate
and too like?
Yeah, that's why I fucking put The Stranger because I'm a poser.
Yeah, you're a super poser. I threw the poser aside and I said,
"It's for sure interesting. It's just not my favorite book."
Yeah. Do you have an actual favorite book? Is it Holes?
Holes is up there.
Yo, Holes is good.
I read that book more than anything.
Who wrote Holes?
Louis Satcher. I think that's how it's pronounced, but it's Louis the normal way and then Sachar.
Not
Satcher.
Louis Satcher.
Louis Satcher.
What are your so just pre-November?
If I had to pick one Harry Potter book, it would be Prisoner of Azkaban.
Obviously. Well, wait. I can't say that obviously.
Because that was like I want to say that was like the first time that I
movies. It's yes, you're right.
It was the first time that I had to encounter something that was like super tragic.
Oh, okay.
In a book because I literally I felt like I knew that everything was that Harry and Sirius were going to be okay, and he was going to go live with Sirius because they have that talk together, and Sirius is like, "Oh, you can stay with me instead of going back to the Dursleys." And I was like, "Oh my God, he doesn't have to go back. He's just going to be happy all the time now." And I got so excited.
Yep. Me too. Me too.
And they pull that rug right out from under you.
She just dives in even further in the fifth one. Rip, dog.
Yeah. But that was like one of the first times that I had
literal dog.
I had to. It was one of the first times I had to deal with tragedy.
Yeah, and had anything happened in your life up to that point that was sort of tragic?
Like my grandpa died
your grandfather?
Before then. At least I think it was before then, but it still
wasn't
have,
like
as bad as it sounds.
I didn't have anything
wasn't
like that. Well, no, that's. I don't think that's abnormal because not everyone is close to their grandparents. I mean, I've lost one of my grandparents, and I wasn't that close to him. It was sad.
Yeah.
But I just, he lived up in the Northeast, and we lived down in Florida, and I just wasn't that close to him. And I'm much closer to my mom's side of the family, and he was my dad's dad. The hardest part for him passing away from me was watching my dad go through it more than anything.
Oh yeah,
that was the hardest part. Yeah, I hadn't lost anyone. My great grandma might have died before then, but I don't remember when that happened. And again, I wasn't. By the time I was a sentient human, she was super old and couldn't really, her mind had gone. So I never really knew her.
Yeah, you couldn't really connect.
Yeah, not at all. Plus, when you're a kid, like if you have grandparents or great grandparents that live in like old folks' homes, you just don't like it. It's not a conducive environment to getting to know someone and to being a kid to enjoying it. It's it smells funny and it's sad, but it's just hard to connect with someone in that kind of scenario. But yeah.
That was a tangent.
I was not expecting a tangent on tragedy there. I want to talk about some TV show stuff. You don't have any movie stuff, right? There's not really any.
I have a documentary that I saw this past week that was fucking incredible, and like I don't really want to do a spoiler episode on it because I feel like it's better to address it in like a normal free form. So it's called I Am Heath Ledger.
Oh, you watched it?
Oh yeah.
Oh, is it good?
And it's fucking good.
I've wanted to watch that for a long time,
dude.
His dad was really important in the making of it, right?
Yes, I'm not sure. I don't know too much about like the behind the scenes, like how it got made and stuff like that, but it's really good. They had a lot of access to original footage. So apparently Heath Ledger was obsessed with creating. He wasn't just an actor, like hopped in front of a camera occasionally, and then he would carry around cameras, and he played the guitar, and he would take Polaroid pictures and then draw on them and stuff like that. He was just obsessed with creating, and he would constantly carry around a video camera and just record himself doing random shit, whether it was his friends or like there was a scene in this documentary where it's just this footage of Heath Ledger recording himself doing this narrative where he's like basically by himself in a hotel room or something, and he's like a secret agent, you know, and it's like super goofy, but he's like treating all of these like really normal things. Like someone calls the hotel room, and as the phone is ringing, he's like, oh, this might be them. Like, and he answers it and like listens to it like all serious and everything. And they're like, hey, Mr. Ledger, like we have your laundry, whatever, down here in the lobby. Thank you very much. And then he hangs up and he's like, looks at the camera and says, like, it's really.
It's probably also like
it's really silly.
It's goofy, but it's probably also like awesome because Heath Ledger's so talented.
Yeah, exactly. But that's. But he's also so talented because he was doing things like this. Mm. He wasn't afraid of being in front of the camera. Yeah. If anything, he craved it.
Yeah.
Like everyone that knew him, and there was a lot of really cool. All of the talking heads were
Is Jake Gyllenhaal in it?
No, Jake Gyllenhaal is not in it. But a lot of Australian actors, as well as Ang Lee, the director of Brokeback Mountain and Life of Pi, he's in it as well.
Okay.
But one really cool story that's in it. So when he was 19, when Heath Ledger was 19, he moved to LA because he's Australian. Mm-hmm. He moved to LA and basically started up this like Aussie crash house in LA where all of these Australian actors and creative types could just stay in his house for free. Wow. And it was just this really creative environment where people are playing music, people are writing, people are acting and fucking having a good time.
That's crazy.
Because he had a pretty immediate success in LA because like I think right when he moved here he got a gig in what's the Julia Stiles movie that he was in? Not How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. 10 Things I Hate About You. 10 Things I Hate About You. He got that role pretty early on in his career.
Then he became rom-com boy for a while.
Some of the people that stayed in this house, dog.
Hit me with it. Are any of the Hemsworth brothers there? Or is that too early for them?
I think it might be too early. But Naomi Watts, who he dated previously.
I have some Naomi Watts stuff later.
Joel Edgerton.
Ooh, very cool.
Rose Byrne.
Wow.
And Ben Mendelsohn.
Wow, Rose Byrne.
Mm-hmm.
It took her a long time to get big.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's relatively speaking, she's not big, but she's been in some stuff, especially lately.
Yeah.
Wow. And what was the last one you said?
For those that don't know who Rose Byrne is, she was in Neighbors. I think that was like probably the
X-Men First Class.
Oh yeah, X-Men First Class was another big one.
She's going to be in the new X-Men too.
Mm-hmm. The other one was Ben Mendelsohn. I'm not sure if you heard that. Ben Mendelsohn.
That dude is a gangster.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't seen Bloodline, right?
No.
He's amazing in that show.
I feel like everything that I've seen him in, I really like.
Yeah, dude, he's sick.
But he's also so good. Naomi Watts and Ben Mendelsohn are two of the talking heads.
Oh, okay.
And they talk about Heath Ledger. But another sort of weird one, I'm not sure if he ever was around this Aussie crash house or whatever. But another weird one, I don't know if you know who this is, Ben Harper. He was one of the guys that they used for talking heads in this documentary.
The name sounds familiar.
He's a musician.
Okay.
He's a musician. He's I'm not sure if he's mixed or if he's just black, but he has a really high singing voice.
Okay.
Fucking, and I've been listening to Ben Harper for a while. I'm not like, I haven't listened to his entire catalog, but the first thing I heard of him was he did a version of Sexual Healing.
Ooh.
And it's fucking amazing. I'm trying to think of his original work that you might know, but anyways,
is he a solo artist or is he in a band or something?
Solo.
Okay.
I'm not sure if he's in a band or anything.
Cool.
But there was a lot of fucking really interesting stuff in this documentary.
How much of this documentary has to do with the end of his life with all the Joker stuff?
So they touch on it. I would say maybe like 15 to 20 minutes.
Is there another documentary that's about that then? I think there's also a documentary dedicated to
just Joker shit?
Yeah, and how sort of the lead up to the end of his life.
They do address a lot of the end of his life. I wouldn't say a lot of the end of his life. They do address a lot of the Joker stuff and him getting really excited to work with Chris Nolan because he was a big fan of Batman Begins.
Okay.
And his approach to it. And apparently he was hanging out with one of his, I'm not sure if it was like a friend from high school or something, but it's like a friend of his. And the friend was like, dude, how are you gonna do the Joker? He's fucking Jack Nicholson, man. How do you even approach that character
Mark Hamill.
Yeah. Mark Hamill also did it, but Jack Nicholson, was the
Caesar
most
Romero.
iconic. What'd you say?
Caesar Romero.
Who's Caesar Romero?
Adam West Joker.
Oh, okay. Damn. Way back in the day.
Yeah.
Anyways, so this dude was like, how do you even fucking approach that character without doing some type of Jack Nicholson impression? And apparently he was like facing away from Heath Ledger when he did it. And Heath Ledger just goes, you want to know how I got these scars?
Could you imagine that?
Dude. When he said it to the me and my friend from work were like just sitting there watching it and we were like, oh my god, could you imagine how fucking scary that is? Because he and then he just goes into the spiel of my father was a drinker and a fiend.
He couldn't stand the sight of me.
And then he finishes with the why so serious? And he said he got chills running through his fucking spine. And he was like, that's fucking it, dude.
Yeah.
That is it. So yeah,
wow,
and I was like,
dude, if only that footage existed.
Oh my god.
Wow. That's so scary.
Yeah, but there was a lot of like really cool.
Heath Ledger's a legend, dude.
There was a lot of really cool moments in there, and everybody that talked about Heath they kept talking about his fearlessness. And the entire time I was watching the documentary, I was just so fucking jealous because he just has this huge aspect of himself that is just so not me. Like, so during that whole short film thing where he's filming himself and doing all this goofy stuff on camera, he literally like goes out of his hotel room and walks past people and like filming himself and walks into the elevator and stuff, goes out onto the street and hides behind fucking telephone poles. And I'm like,
he just has no level of embarrassment or
zero shame.
His self-confidence is just so high.
Yeah,
well, what he's doing.
Yeah, and but the entire time I'm like, I can't do that, right? I would be so terrified of everyone looking at me like I was a complete lunatic. And it was like Heath Ledger was crazy.
Yeah.
Heath Ledger was crazy. That's why like a lot of people when they bring up the whole, like the Joker role made him insane.
No.
I'm a little skeptical with like qualifying it like that.
Yeah.
Like describing that scenario as him going crazy because he took on this role.
Yeah.
And I think that it exacerbated things for sure because it made him examine certain parts of himself that he probably didn't want to. And I think that it was an incredibly tough role for him to take on because he did a lot of work after that and he had problems with his health. And because he had problems with his health, that's why he started taking pills and stuff. And he was completely over prescribed.
Did the health problems have to do with the filming or was it separate?
So he got really sick. I'm not sure if he got pneumonia on the set of not the Dark Knight.
The last film he was ever in.
Yeah, the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus.
The weird title.
Apparently there was a scene where he was like hanging from a bridge and it was raining or something like that, and he just got really fucking sick. And he was the type of person who didn't sleep.
Okay.
Like he would show up at people's like houses at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and say like, hey, like let's hang out. Like he didn't stop. He just was always, which is
that's gonna be a no for me, dog.
It's very anti you. But yeah, it was fucking really fascinating documentary. And there was just like a lot of really cool stories about him. It crashed my mood super hard though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I watched it.
Well, it's probably kind of sad by the end.
I watched it on a duty day, and like after I watched, I cried watching this documentary because they were talking about how he sort of knew that he wasn't going to live a long time, and that was like that's sort of what aided to his like I have to keep doing, I have to keep making, I have to always be creative, and I'm like fuck, I vibe with that so well. Like I'm like shit, that is, and it hurts me.
Don't say that.
I mean, something I gotta deal with, dude. Fucking, we're probably gonna talk more about that later on for my shout outs.
Okay.
But I mean, yeah, it crashed my mood because I was just like, man, fucking the fact that he wasn't able to sustain himself so that he would he would still be living now and making movies it sucks.
Yeah, and in sort of a vain way, what would Dark Knight Rises have been if he was still alive? How different would that have been? Just in a sort of different, completely different. And I think we would be remiss if we were talking about Heath Ledger and we didn't mention how much we both love the film A Knight's Tale.
Dude, so they brought up, that was like that was probably the biggest blockbuster movie that he had done, because there was like posters up everywhere for A Knight's Tale. And Naomi Watts was talking about how when he was sitting there watching for the premiere of A Knight's Tale, he apparently had to get up and walk out of the theater or something. He went to the bathroom, and he said that he suddenly realized like how famous he was going to be. Like, and he was like, I don't want this. And whoa. Naomi Watts used this metaphor that I think she said it was an Australian metaphor, but she said that it was the tall poppy syndrome. But like basically, if you have like it's like the nail that sticks out the farthest is the one that gets hammered down. Okay. Kind of thing. It's kind of the same thing. If you have a tall poppy plant, right, that's taller than all the rest, it's the first one to get cut down. Okay.
So was his fear that if he was at the height of celebrity that he would be knocked down?
That he would be knocked down, that he...
wow.
And yeah.
That's interesting.
I mean, I don't know exact like all the things that was going through Heath Ledger's brain. Ledger. But yeah, I thought that was really... Because at first I was like, oh no, did he not like A Knight's Tale? I love A Knight's Tale so much.
That would be so sad. Oh man.
Yeah, that was really interesting. Another like little fucking tidbit that was really cool, and I had heard a different reason for it before. Apparently, one of the reasons why he licked his lips so much while he was as the Joker was because of the makeup.
Oh, okay.
Because they had to put this prosthetic on his lip.
Yeah.
Because he had a scar going across it.
In real life, he has a scar.
Huh? No. In like the
okay.
So
to
character.
make it look like he has a scar, he had a prosthetic.
Yes.
And obviously he has
the bottom
all
of his lip. Yeah.
Stuff on the side.
But all of the prosthetics would, the more that he talked, the more they started to come off. Like
so he would lick them to keep them on.
So basically. He would lick them to kind of like.
Wow, how weird is that? And that added so much to the performance.
But I also have heard before that the reason that he did it was because it was a tick that he exacerbated for the role.
Yeah.
And
he actually did that anyway.
And there's certain times when you can see him acting in other movies where you see him do a like 10% of what he's doing in the Joker, where he does this thing.
Interesting.
He's putting his tongue in his cheek. You can see him do that in A Knight's Tale.
Yeah.
In like literally the final battle that he has with Count Adamar, and he's looking across Count Adamar across the field.
Right before he yells William.
William! Yeah. Right before he does that, He has his tongue in his cheek, just like Joker.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and I had heard that he exacerbated, but I mean, it might be both things. I don't know.
Certainly. That sounds really cool. What's it called again?
So it's called I Am Heath Ledger.
I Am Heath. Where did you watch it?
I watched it on Amazon Prime. I had to rent it though. It was I think it was like a $3 rental. $3-4
that sounds
rental.
dope though. Check that out.
Mm-hmm.
So you brought up Naomi Watts. That's kind of an easy transition into a couple of these TV things that I wanted to bring up. I don't know if you saw this, but they confirmed the title and the beginning of some casting announcements for the Game of Thrones prequel. Yeah. So for those who don't know, Game of Thrones is ending this year with its 6th season. 6th season? I think it's the 6th season. Whatever season it's on. Last season's coming out. And HBO has been talking about doing multiple spin-offs of Game of Thrones. Multiple. And the first one that they've confirmed is called The Long Night. It takes place 8,000 years before Game of Thrones during what's called the Age of Heroes. And it's the first appearance of the White Walkers. The confirmation is...
Is that Long Night with an N?
Yes, with an N.
Okay, so it's not the long...
No, it's not Podrick, the Long Night.
The Long Night. Lymph.
No, not Lymph. No.
Starring Thonmaker.
But Naomi Watts is going to be playing the female lead. And someone named Josh Whitehouse is the male lead. He's like on a BBC show, but he's pretty unknown.
Okay.
That's all the casting they have so far, but George R. R. Martin came out and was like, it's called The Long Night. Expect more casting news as the next couple weeks go on. They're basically in the casting process right now, and they're going to start filming pretty soon. I kind of wanted to talk about a couple things about this. First of all, are you into the idea of a Game of Thrones prequel? Is that something that you're excited for?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I'm as excited for that as the final season of Game of Thrones.
Obviously.
It's much less it's one of those things. If Game of Thrones just ended, I wouldn't be clamoring for a prequel show.
You'd be that was a great run, and it will forever exist in that, and I'm cool with it.
But I also who's involved with making it? Is it the same people? Is it completely
I forget the showrunner's name. It's a woman. I don't know her. It's Jane something. I don't know what she's from.
Okay. Because that has a lot
that's
to
really
do with
important.
It. If it's good, it's good. I mean, I enjoy good TV.
Yeah.
And plus, that world is so
it's crazy
wealthy of
crazy.
Just completely rich characters.
There's apparently 4 more shows they're talking about making. Because there's just so much history to that world to go into. It's nuts. One of them is probably going to be a show about the Targaryen family, way before, the first Targaryen king or whatever. There's so much to get into. A thing I kind of thought about was I guess there's a monologue earlier on in Game of Thrones where someone first mentions the Long Night. And it's basically, it's the arrival of the White Walkers, and the world gets sent into darkness for 4 years, I think. And it was portrayed as this horrible, horrible time where mothers were killing their children to save them from monsters, horrible stuff. I'm just wondering how it almost seems like if that's the route they're going, it's going to be more heroic than Game of Thrones is. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Game of Thrones is very political more than anything else. It's literally about the Game of Thrones, about who's going to be in charge of Westeros.
Okay.
This is literally in reference to an Age of Heroes. Now, neither of us have read the book, so we don't really know
what that could even mean.
What that even means, what it pertains to. But I just think that's kind of interesting, because I saw some people being so it's going to be the same show. It's just going to be them dealing with White Walkers. But they don't really do that in Game of Thrones very often. In terms of direct conflict with the White Walkers.
Combat with
they're
White
a more... look what's coming threat.
Yeah,
it's
a representation of death.
Yeah, and they're terrifying. But this seems to be more of a direct conflict idea. And if it's called the Age of Heroes, I want to know why. That interests me. Why? Who is it from this age that gives the time its name? You know what I mean? I think that's kind of a cool idea.
Do you think White Walkers are zombies?
I think they're zombie-esque.
I would say that the easiest way that you could
I would say
describe
if you
White
were
Walkers
to, like,
is...
you know, like Kingdom, Phylum, Order, Class, Family, Genus, Species?
What did you just say?
Kingdom, Phylum, Class, Family, Order, Genus, Species.
That's some D&D shit, right?
No, dude, that's how you classify.
Kingdom, Phylum...
That's how you, in science, you classify
in science.
life.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Yeah. The zombie would be like a genus.
The way you rattled that off, I was like, that has to be D&D.
It was fast, right?
It was like all of those syllables just combined together.
No, but I feel like zombie would be like a genus or a class or something, and then White Walker would be more specific. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, it's just
like how there's differences between lions and tigers, but they're both mammalia or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They're both mammals.
But there's also like differences between certain kinds of White Walkers, right? Because you have
That's
like
true. There's the king and
the Night King,
yeah.
who is sentient. He can plan things, and then there's the people that he's controlling, the White Walkers that he's controlling. No, I had a
wait. There's the White Walkers are the creepy blue dudes or whatever. The people they turn are zombies. Certainly, they're different. Are they called White Walkers? I don't think they are. The people that just
I don't know this. I don't know the semantics as far as like what is White Walkers and what is I don't know. Yeah. No, I had a huge conversation at work about what if the 28 days later creatures are zombies or not.
I've never seen 28 Days Later, so I can't speak to it.
They're zombies.
Okay. Well, I feel like 28 Days Later is always put on lists about zombie movies.
I literally since that conversation, I've looked on 3 different like best zombie movies lists, and it's always top 5.
Yeah.
28 Days Later is my favorite zombie movie, written by Alex Garland, same guy who wrote and directed Ex Machina and Annihilation.
Yeah. I didn't know that. I didn't know that he made 28 Days Later.
He wrote it.
He only wrote it. He didn't direct it.
So he wrote it, and Danny Boyle directed it.
Oh, okay.
You know Danny Boyle?
Yeah. Okay. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's just the general idea of the show. But this brought up a couple things. The first one, every time there's something about Game of Thrones announced, and you see it online, the comments of whatever you're looking at will, without fail, turn to, "Shut up, George R.R. Martin, go write your books." Okay?
Right.
You've seen that?
Yeah.
You know that's a thing?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like he's obligated to finishing the series if he doesn't?
If he doesn't feel the need to, no. I mean, it's his thing. Like, there's obviously like I think that he should.
Yeah.
I don't. But as far as placing it as an obligation, like he does have an obligation to, but he has the right not to.
Okay.
He is not. I mean, he is his own human being.
Yeah,
like,
and he's also busy. He does a lot of, because he produces the show now and is working on launching 5 new shows apparently. He's a super busy dude.
Well, like that idea of being like George R.R. Martin, shut up and go write these books.
It seems like stick to sports to me.
Yeah, it's like shut up and dribble.
Yeah.
It's like it's just another.
It doesn't have the racial connotations.
It doesn't have the racial connotations, but it is still an objectification of celebrity.
Absolutely.
And people thinking that they own a celebrity because they enjoy their work.
Yeah.
You know, they're like the type of people that will walk up to celebrities on the street and just like start taking pictures of them, stuff like that. And then if they're like, sorry, like I have to go somewhere, like they're like, well, you owe this to me.
Yeah, and it's like you accepted this when you became a public figure.
Yeah,
that seems like crazy to me.
I will politely say, go fuck yourself if you think that.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Like they don't owe you anything.
That you can treat someone a certain way because they're famous seems completely insane to me. But I always get kind of frustrated when I see that people kind of lashing out at George R.R. Martin for not having finished the book series, which I think there's supposed to be 2 more books in a 5-book series or 6-book series or something. And I mean, obviously, I think he should finish them. It's like you know. But like you said, he doesn't have to.
Yeah, he has the right not to.
Yeah, he has the right not to. Especially because he has other things that he does now. And he still creates other content. There's another book coming out this year, but it's like a history of Westeros or something like that. Like he has other things that he does. And if he just doesn't feel like he can finish the book, It is what it is.
And also, it depends on the type of person you are as a fan. Are you the type of person who is objectifying his right to either right or not right, or are you just frustrated because you love his work so much and you can't wait?
I totally understand.
He doesn't write very fast.
No, he writes very
like
slow.
I watched an interview with him and Stephen King where they were talking to each other on stage.
Well, that's the opposites.
But George, because Stephen King doesn't think that he is as prolific as he is.
Yeah, but he's written how many books? 25 or something.
Maybe way more than that.
Yeah,
more than 25, I would say.
Jeez.
But, but George R. R. Martin, one of the questions that he asked to Stephen King was, "How the fuck do you write so fast?" Because George R. R. Martin he struggles with it.
Yeah.
But, so I understand like the frustration of.
You ever see him?
I'm a fucking Rick and Morty fan. That shit, you have to wait forever for
it's
something
like 2
to come
years.
out.
Yeah.
But
I mean, even being Game of Thrones the show fans. In a small dose, we got it because we had to wait an extra year between the last season and the final season. So I understand the frustration, but I think you're right. The context of the way you approach it is important. If you are just demanding because you want, and you're not thinking,
this is my thing.
This is mine. Yeah, this weird ownership thing. Because you'll hear people talk, artists talk about how once you release your work into the world, it's not yours anymore. It's up for interpretation. As to what it means and what it's about.
Yeah.
And obviously the more vague your work, the more that's going to be taken. But I think that while that's kind of true, that doesn't mean that the work you can interpret how you want, but that doesn't mean that you can then demand of the creator whatever you want.
Yeah, I think it's just selfish justification.
Yeah.
They're just justifying their own selfish behaviors and saying like, "Oh, I deserve this. Give me this."
More.
But yeah, I understand being frustrated, and I understand like it would fucking suck if you didn't write a final book and you were a fan of the books.
Yeah.
I for the Daredevil episode that we already recorded and is coming out on Thursday. I brought up the Spawn animated series. It got canceled after one season.
Firefly,
and
I brought up in that too. Firefly
it
canceled
sucks.
after one season.
It sucks because it's so good, and I want more of it.
Yeah. You might get a movie.
Yeah.
You might get that movie with Jeremy Renner and Jamie Foxx.
And Todd McFarlane's like directing it. He's like the main creative force behind it, which is really.
That's why apparently they're having a hard time getting it made. It's because
he doesn't have any
he doesn't have
experience.
directing experience. Yeah.
So it could end up being something bad, or it could be. I mean, he created Spawn, so I trust him as a creative, and I trust him as someone who.
Just because you can create something doesn't mean you can direct. So it's an understandable fear.
But I mean, there's also the types of people who are so creative that it doesn't matter what art form you have. That it doesn't matter what kind of medium you're pursuing, they're going to be good. It doesn't matter what medium that Kid Cudi delved himself into, he was going to be good at it. Same thing with Donald Glover. Like, it doesn't matter what kind of, like, if that dude wanted to be a journalist, he would have been a fucking incredible journalist. If he...
I'm just thinking about him playing a journalist now. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
That'd be cool.
But yeah.
But this also brought up more side thoughts to the Game of Thrones thing. I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's a huge movement in television and streaming to find the next Game of Thrones, which on surface level you might think a big budget fantasy show, but it's more than that, because weirdly people consider Game of Thrones the next Sopranos in terms of television that is so culturally relevant that it becomes part of the zeitgeist of life.
Right.
It's just, the Monday morning water cooler talk is
it's
about
it's
Game
a
of
cultural
Thrones.
phenomenon as much as it is a TV show.
And I think there's been other things that are like that in small, like I think Stranger Things was kind of like that. There's been stuff that dabbles in that.
Right.
But Game of Thrones is easily the biggest of recent history.
Right.
For sure. And I was too young to remember when The Sopranos was like that. So I wasn't really exposed to that. But I thought it was interesting to look into the upcoming projects that are sort of in the attempt to become the next Game of Thrones. I just wanted to get your thoughts on some of them. So, Amazon obviously they spent $250 million for the rights to Lord of the Rings. And they're reportedly putting in $1 billion budget to make a Lord of the Rings prequel about Aragorn. That's the first one. $1 billion.
With a B. With a B.
With a B.
$1 billion. That's insane.
That's crazy. Mr. Jeff Bezos out there, Amazon boy, he was like, I got the cash, baby. I don't pay my employees, so I got the cash.
We just made the big sick. We're rolling in it.
Yeah, Amazon is like if the world ever becomes run by super corporations, it'll be like you'll live in Amazon country or you'll live in Google country, and there's a couple others, but those are two of the biggest ones. But yeah, I think that this one probably has the most detail of all of them because they've already said it's going to be a prequel and based around Aragorn, so that gives us a little bit of an idea. But there's no casting or anything like that. I'm interested in it. I think it's an interesting idea. I would rather see. This is where it gets kind of weird. I would rather see something that takes place in Middle Earth, but with characters we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I would prefer that.
And that's another example of pre-existing material that's just it's so rich with characters and so huge.
Yeah. But as far as I know, I might be wrong about this, but as far as I know, I don't think there is anything that really covers what Aragorn was doing. At least not specifically. There might be like weird notes and stuff. Mm-hmm. There's been so much of Tolkien's work collected by his son and sort of redistributed in different ways, not necessarily in story form, but just like here are his notes and here are his ideas on things. There's a ton of stuff like that, so I might be wrong. There might be stuff.
You've read Tolkien, right?
I've read The Hobbit and I've read The Lord of the Rings.
Right. I haven't. I'm not a huge Lord of the Rings fan. I've seen all of the movies. Mm-hmm. I haven't read a lick of the books.
I found Lord of the Rings hard to read.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't not enjoy it. But
if you find it hard to read, it's going to be tough for me.
There's just slogs where it's just like they're walking,
mm-hmm.
and they're still walking, and they're still walking, and it's just like I get it, they're walking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Lord of the Rings is very cool. I think Lord of the Rings. I enjoy Lord of the Rings much more cinematically than I do as a book. Much more.
Mm-hmm.
I might get stoned by people for that, but it's just
it's
everyone likes things.
Man.
Yeah, it's just can't be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Just the way you feel.
Yeah, but like I feel like the idea of trying to, I don't know, this like moonshot of trying to craft the next cultural phenomenon is sort of a weird.
It seems like a weird way to approach the creation of something, right?
Right. Yeah, to be like, oh, we need to come up with the next cultural phenomenon.
And immediately you're like, we're going to throw all of our money at this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and try to figure out how to recreate something. When Game of Thrones came out, I don't think anyone expected what happened.
But like the reason that Game of Thrones is so good is because you have all of this already pre-existing material that was written by a fucking genius,
mm-hmm.
Someone who's incredibly creative, and then you have people who are able to adapt it so fucking well.
Weiss and
Benioff. But it wasn't people trying to create the new Sopranos, even though it took the new cultural phenomenon.
Well, it's interesting because their original pitch for Game of Thrones is The Sopranos in Middle Earth. That was their pitch.
Okay.
To HBO. The Sopranos in Middle Earth.
Okay. I mean, but if you're going to market something, you change the content in order the way that you market it to make it more sellable. Yep. It's not like they're actually George R.R. Martin wasn't sitting down and they're like, oh, I'm gonna write.
No,
Sopranos
he was like, I want to write a cool fantasy story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's what he did.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, there's more here. Netflix's is The Witcher,
mm-hmm.
which I don't know if you saw it today, but the first look at Henry Cavill came out today. It's just literally like a shot. You see like the person with the clapper thing, and they're like, blah 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 blah, and it's like dark. And
there hasn't been any photos or anything released before.
No,
before this.
No, they just casted him like a month ago. Like they already started.
I think I saw like fan made shit.
Yeah, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Boss Logic did some stuff. And,
right.
Yeah, but he like walked into the light, and then he makes a face, and then he like drinks a potion. I don't really know anything.
I don't know
Witcher.
jack about The Witcher. No.
I've seen a friend of ours play The Witcher, and it's a beautiful game, and it looks like it's a lot of fun. But I don't have a console capable of playing it of any kind. I would love to play it. I think it'd be a lot of fun. But a Witcher, on top of being a video game, is based off a book series. And I think the show is going to be based off more of the book than the game. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
but The Witcher's another one, and they went out and got Henry Cavill. They got a well-known actor.
Mm-hmm.
I've got Disney Play, the upcoming Disney streaming service. Obviously we've talked about this before. The Mandalorian. They have their Star Wars show, and this is where I kind of think the idea where it goes beyond being the next fantasy show. It's what's the next big budget, nerd culture inspired thing is kind of the vibe that people are going for with this next Game of Thrones. So the Mandalorian is obviously going to be on there. I kind of think that the route they're going takes it away from being that. It seems smaller scale. You know what I mean?
What you think that the route that
I think because
Disney is
well, no,
approaching?
Jon Favreau specifically. I think because he's making a show about a Mandalorian who might be a bounty hunter, we don't know, seems smaller scale than what Game of Thrones is, with big casts and world arcing plots and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
So you think that it's going to be more withdrawn?
I think so.
Okay.
Because I mean, it's not a Boba Fett show, but it's similar in idea. Because Boba Fett, wore the Mandalorian army as a bounty hunter. That's not a huge scale idea. It's about a dude doing his thing.
And I don't think that you have to have a huge scale idea in order for it to be a cultural phenomenon.
No, I definitely agree with you.
It has. You agree with me?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like Stranger Things is pretty withdrawn. Like there's CGI and stuff like that, but for the most part, I mean, it's about
a small town.
Yeah, it's about a small
kids
town.
in a small town. Even The Sopranos, for what little I know of it, it's about a family, a mafia family, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's small scale.
Yeah,
that's not. Yeah, it doesn't have to be that, but I think that's what people are going for. This one I put in here just because I thought you would like it. FX has a show called Why the Last Man.
Oh shit, that's right. Yeah, but this has been in development for a while now. Have they?
Barry Keoghan has been cast as Yorick.
I don't know who Barry.
Yes, you do. He was in Green Room, and he's the kid in Dunkirk. I Just Want to Be Useful, Sir, kid on the boat.
Oh, that dude.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dark hair kid.
Okay, I can
He's
vibe
playing
with that.
Yorick.
I can vibe with that. That's a good approach.
There's a Imogen Poots is in it.
Okay. I can dig
Diane
that.
Keaton is in it. There's a few. The cast is done. They've said it's being made.
Okay.
It's a thing. It's real. It's happening.
Okay, so yeah, this has been like, and FX has had it for a few years now. Like I read the first time I read Why the Last Man in its entirety was 2-3 years ago. And right after I read it, I looked up to see if there was anything involved with them trying to make a TV show or whatever it was. And originally it was Shia LaBeouf that was cast as Yorick Brown, which...
And this was only a couple years ago?
Yeah.
Whoa, that's weird.
Yeah. But I actually really liked that casting. At first I was like, oh, Shia LaBeouf. And because the idea of Shia LaBeouf is very like...
Shia LaBeouf's a good actor, though.
He's a good actor, but he's also... he fits into that role really well.
How old is Yorick supposed to be?
I think Yorick's in his
20s.
Yeah, mid to late 20s, I would say.
Okay, because this casting Barry Keoghan, I might be saying it wrong, but is much younger skewing than Shia LaBeouf.
Mm-hmm.
Shia LaBeouf can be made to look younger, but he's pretty firmly in his 30s in terms of the way he looks.
No, but like I liked it because Yorick is supposed to be a really average-looking dude.
Mm-hmm.
He's not supposed to be like super attractive or anything. He's also supposed to be. Yorick's a weirdo, and he has a lot of.
Dude, he has a pet monkey.
He has so he didn't get the monkey to be a pet, but
he hangs out with a monkey.
He hangs out with a monkey, yeah. But he's fucking. He has a really weird like fucking sexual past, and fucking he has all of this like really fucking strange shit that's going on with him psychologically. It's one of the reasons why I like Yorick so much. He's a fucking weirdo.
Yeah.
And I was like, Shia LaBeouf fucking fits that really well.
Because Shia LaBeouf's a weirdo.
Yeah.
I think Barry Keoghan's a good actor though.
Yeah.
I think
I like that. Yeah. I like that. It's pretty interesting.
I don't know.
Actor.
Obviously, I don't know like the characters of Why the Last Man, so I don't know.
I'm wondering who Imogen Poots could play.
I'm assuming there's a female character. The rest of the cast.
the main female character that plays opposite of Yorick Brown is black, and Imogen Poots is
No, she's not. She
black.
was in what's that movie with Zac Efron and Michael B. Jordan and Miles Teller? It's like a rom-com.
I forgot the name of it. It has
You
like
know what
really
movie I'm talking about?
It has a really generic name, right?
Yeah, it's super. She's the love interest for Zac Efron in that movie.
Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure if she's
Dude,
playing
I
some
feel
other
like
kind
I liked that movie, but a movie with those three dudes.
Oh no, she might be playing his girlfriend.
Sure, maybe.
But like you don't see her throughout the majority of the. I have no idea, man.
I don't know.
I have no idea.
They don't have.
This is pure speculation for me, just because I enjoy
their
that
character names are not on IMDb for
Okay.
Diane Keaton or Imogen Poots.
Okay.
So I don't know who they're
But
playing.
Diane Keaton's playing his mom.
Sure.
Absolutely would be
Okay.
playing his mom.
HBO has, along with all their other Game of Thrones prequels, the Watchmen show. So that's interesting. And then I put one more. I put the Kingkiller Chronicle, which not only has the movie coming out, but they're also the deal they made with Patrick Rothfuss, the author of the novel, was a deal for all media. Basically, they're going to be making films, television shows, video games. They're making all of these different things based on that world. And Lin-Manuel Miranda is involved in like all of it. I assume in the musical sense, which I just think that's interesting. But the problem, it's on Showtime.
Yeah, it's weird. Well, there's got to be something that's on Showtime that's good.
Was Black Flag on Showtime? The pirate show that people like? Black Sails.
Black
Sails.
What's Black Flag is Assassin's Creed.
Yep.
And I think it's also a punk band.
Sure. But yeah, I just kind of thought that was interesting. What you said, the idea of approaching
something with the goal
intent of being the next Game of Thrones, of being a cultural phenomenon is so weird.
Mm. It seems like almost like kind of counterintuitive. It's like drafting an NBA player and being like, oh, we can only draft superstars.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like draft what you need, draft like what then hopefully like is the best player. But who knows what like who's going to be the next Steph Curry? It's a weird thing to like ultimately have that goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an interesting take on it. The other TV thing I have is I don't know if you've seen all this news. This Marvel news. So last week or the week before, I think, Iron Fist got canceled after season 2. A few days later, Luke Cage got canceled.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 2 out of 4 shows axed on Netflix. Netflix, though, has shown a kind of a trend here where they're canceling things that they aren't making. Their original content that isn't being made by their studio, they're canceling. They also canceled, sadly, shed a tear, they canceled American Vandal. Very sad. Now, it's being shopped, I guess, to go somewhere else, but, that's wait and see. The thing I find interesting about the Marvel stuff specifically being canceled on Netflix is because we know Disney Play is coming. And we know, like I just said, the Star Wars show is going to be on there. They have a ton of content that they're planning on putting on, original content they're planning on putting on that streaming service. And a few of them have come to light recently. I don't know if you've heard about any of these. A Loki show, a Scarlet Witch show with Vision in it. Those were a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
More recently, there's rumors of a Jeremy Renner-led Hawkeye show where he is training Kate Bishop, the other Hawkeye, who's kind of like his sidekick.
Kate Bishop is a character.
Yes.
Okay.
There are rumors already. Do you know who Catherine Langford is?
No.
She's the lead in 13 Reasons Why. She was in Love, Simon. She was the girl who was like in his best friend in Love, Simon.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the one that the one
she
that
has
had a huge crush on
apparently
him.
a like secret role in Avengers 4.
Okay.
And people think she might be Kate Bishop. No one knows yet, but people are the internet is very excited about the idea of it because the internet really likes her. I think Jeremy Renner's been pushing for a Hawkeye show for a long time because he thinks it would be the best format to give Hawkeye his own story instead of giving him a movie. So I think that's interesting. And then there's one more that was rumored like 2 days ago, and it is a Falcon Winter Soldier TV show, limited series, starring Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan.
Did you leave that for last? Because you're the most hyped for that one?
So, yes. I don't know what a Loki TV show is going to be. I don't know what a Scarlet Witch show is going to be. I think the Hawkeye show could be really cool. I'd be really excited for that. But the implications of doing a mini-series starring Falcon and Winter Soldier is so interesting to me. Because you have to look at the big picture. We know Chris Evans is done as Captain America after Avengers 4. I would be so fascinated in a limited series show dedicated to them figuring out what to do with the mantle of Captain America. Because based on comic book history, one of them is going to become Cap.
Okay. I don't find that really that compelling.
No?
No, I'm more excited about... You told me the Hawkeye thing. It's the first time I've heard about it, and that seems way more interesting.
Oh, I think they're both awesome.
Yeah.
But I also just love Falcon and Winter Soldier and their kind of weird friendship rivalry thing they have. Mm-hmm. They're a lot of fun together. I think them leading a show would be a lot of fun. And I think one idea of it could be the fallout of the death of Captain America. Mm-hmm. I think that would be very interesting. I do think a Hawkeye show might be the best show, though. I think that'd be really, really interesting to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what would be the best show, but I know that one seems more interesting mm-hmm. to me.
I love the idea. I mean, you know how I am with sidekicks. I'm like the Teen Titans are like my favorite thing. I love the idea of him training like the next Hawkeye. That's super cool to me, especially because in the universe he's like retired and he wasn't even in Avengers 3. Who knows where he is? I just think it's very interesting that the next phase of, they've always done phase 1, phase 2, and now their next thing is now we're going to expand into these limited series. I think that's a really cool idea mm-hmm. because you can take the characters that you can't give a Scarlet Witch a movie. It's just like, what is that movie going to be about? And how many people are going to go see it? But you can hella give Scarlet Witch a TV show. That's interesting.
I also, I read somewhere that they're going to give these respective TV shows are going to have bigger budgets than Daredevil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was like, oh,
yeah, they're going to have like movie budgets.
Yeah. Yeah. That's insane to me. Like,
what is a big budget Loki TV show? What is that?
Mm-hmm.
That literally could be anything. Who knows what's going to happen in something like that? I love the idea of branching out beyond just the movies. Because it's what they were... It's kind of like what we thought they were going to do with the Netflix stuff.
Yeah.
But they never have and they never will be connected. I mean, they're connected in terms of the alien invasion in the first Avengers movie happened.
Yes.
In that universe. But we'll never see Charlie Cox's Daredevil in an Avengers movie or something. Which, the saddest part to me, dude, I want to see him and Tom Holland interact so bad.
Yeah?
So bad. Because that's a thing. Daredevil Spider-Man relationship is a thing from the comics. It's a fun relationship, and specifically those two. Tom Holland like bugging Charlie Cox to me would be so fun.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it'd be awesome. I'd be so into it.
Is there like what Punisher is to Daredevil? Is Daredevil that to Spider-Man? You know, like where
like the dark, brooding, like overly violent, over the top character.
Yeah.
Kind of. I think he's. I mean, in the comics, I think they're a little. They're friends. Mm-hmm. It's not like how in season 2 of Daredevil they're like kind of enemies.
Right.
They're friends. Daredevil and Spider-Man are friends, but I think the relationship specifically in the MCU could have been a lot of fun. I've always been kind of disappointed that they never went there. I know that there was the whole behind the scenes drama of Kevin Feige, and I think the guy's name was Ike Perlmutter, I think was his name. He was the dude in charge of Marvel Television, and they bashed heads super hard. And
really?
Yeah, they just never had a good working relationship. And he no longer runs the TV side, somebody else does. But they just, because of that relationship and for whatever reason, they never connected the Marvel stuff or the Netflix stuff to the movie stuff. But now with Disney Play coming, they see an opportunity, and Kevin Feige is going to be in charge of all this. Kevin Feige is everything.
Right.
And why shouldn't it be?
because he's done such a good work so far.
Job.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like the movies themselves have sort of been stepping closer to the line of what television is anyway. Like the fact that you'll have these sequential narratives and you have crossovers and all these characters exist within the same world. It's a lot closer to what TV is, and like I
think especially the sequential narrative thing.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that line of what is a movie and what is TV show,
it's blurred. Yeah,
it has become a lot more blurred, especially within the past decade, 10 to 15 years.
Especially,
because of the writers and creators of the Duffer Brothers, the creators of Stranger Things, approach Stranger Things as if it's a movie.
Just a really long movie.
They were filmmakers, and they kind of had this idea for a more long form movie, and that's how they approached it.
That's interesting. I think, you always hear we're in a golden age of television. I just think that TV finally, I don't want to say TV caught up to movies. People realized what TV could be. TV didn't have to be this, network television week by week, monster of the week, or, medical crisis of the week on a doctor show. It doesn't have to be that. And I think people over the last, 10 years or whatever have figured out that it can be more, and now are experimenting more and more with what TV can be. And, the lengths that things have to be. The first thing we learned is that a TV show does not have to be 22 episodes. That's too much for almost anything. That's why the DC shows on the CW suffer so much, is because they're too long, and they're on the CW. But so then it became, we can make this 13 episodes, and then it's like we can make 6 episodes or something like that, and that's a 6-hour movie. And I just think the more that we see people experiment with and try different things with the medium, I think it's going to blur the line even more on the difference between a movie and a TV show.
Because they're sampling the positive parts of each.
Yeah.
Right. The fact that you have these Marvel movies that are living within the same universe, and you can have multiple sequels, and TV is like, okay, we can make this more cinematic. We can make this as technically proficient as any movie. And we can make them shorter. They don't have to be 20 episode seasons.
I think it's kind of weird. You almost think like one of the things that you get from a TV show, like Daredevil, for example, catch spoiler episode later this week, is how much more you can get into the characters. You can only get into Tony Stark so much in an Iron Man movie. You can only do so much. And then when you start adding in all the characters they put in these Marvel films, especially the Avengers ones, you can basically only give them each like one scene where it's like a character development scene. Or otherwise, it's like we got to move things forward.
Right.
So I think the idea of putting some of these characters, especially the lesser utilized ones in TV shows, is going to be a really good idea. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, the power of character development within TV shows is so much greater than that in movies.
Yeah. You just have more time.
Yeah.
More time to put into it. But yeah, that's my TV stuff. You said you had like a philosophical thing or something?
Yeah. I mean, I guess we could talk about this. So I've been thinking about respect a lot. Yeah, respect.
I don't get no respect.
I don't need no respect. Respect
is nice.
Is nice. And I feel like I've like struggled with the idea of respect, and what it means and how I should approach it, because I feel like what a lot of people like mean by respect, I feel like I treat a majority of everyone with respect, but I also don't. I've been struggling with like, what does that mean? Like, what are the behaviors that come with respecting someone? How do you quantify it? How do you label what respect is? And I also don't enjoy the types of people who try and demand respect. And like,
you feel like lately, you have to earn it.
Well, lately, I think I wouldn't even say that you have to earn it, but I would say that I respect actions more than I do people.
not the people that do the actions.
But I could end up. I respect the fuck out of LeBron James.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I respect him as an athlete. I respect his work ethic. I respect his
as a person,
philanthropy. I respect him as a person. But like I've always sort of scoffed at the idea, like especially being in the Navy, like the idea of just throwing out a blanket respect for anybody that has an anchor on their collar,
a higher rank,
being
or something.
being a chief, you know, like being a commanding officer.
Well, because the intention is that someone who has earned this title has earned the respect of anyone with a lower rank than them. Mm-hmm. But in your experience, that doesn't seem necessarily true.
Well, in my experience, I feel like it's easy to get there, you know?
Oh, okay.
And I know that I'm probably pissing a lot of people off, even within my own family, by saying that, you know? But the longer that you stay in the Navy, the more likely you become to become promoted, the more likely you become. I
mean, this also speaks to how the I don't want to say morals of the Navy, but you know, the Navy clashes with you. Is morally the word? I don't know if morally is the right word. Spiritually, yeah.
As douchey as that sounds, spiritually, it doesn't vibe with me. It doesn't ignite my passions as much as anything else.
Yeah.
But I knew that coming in. I knew coming in that I wasn't going to enjoy a lot of the personality types that I would see in the Navy.
I feel like a big thing with me would be talking about respect. I think boot camp I couldn't take it seriously.
Yeah.
The idea that, because I mean, you've gone through it, so you can speak to it, but the idea is essentially they try to break you down to then build you back up the way they want you, right? Mm-hmm. That's so crazy to me.
Yeah, and I would say it's never really 100%, even with people that are like super Joe Navy types.
Well, how could it be?
Yeah, I mean, just because everyone still maintains their identity. And plus, that boot camp is way easier now than it ever was.
Okay.
Like even in this 5.5 years that I've been in the Navy, the people that are going to boot camp right now are going to have it a lot easier than I had it.
Oh wow.
And the people, you know, when my grandpa went through the Navy,
probably hardcore as hell,
I mean, you got spit in the face and punched in the stomach, you know. Ugh. Like but as far as like breaking down your identity and who you are and building you up into something new, I mean, a lot of things do that on a small scale, you know what I mean? And saying that you're completely changing your identity, I would say a fucking really good movie changes who you are. And to a small extent, I mean, the boot camp did change me into a different person, you know. It made me more prepared, I guess. For the certain personality types that I would see in the Navy, as well as the mentalities that I would have to have in the Navy. But even outside of militarial things, right? Like I was talking to a friend recently, and he was talking about how he was talking with his nephew.
Wait, you have friends who aren't me?
Yeah.
Oh man, I gotta get on that.
Yeah. Sorry to burst your bubble, dude. Yeah, but he was talking about how he was having this conversation with his nephew, and I wouldn't even say this is a negative thing. This is just how not how I interact with people.
Yeah.
But apparently his nephew said like, "Hey, what's up, man?" or something like that to him, and he was like, "Hold on, like I'm your uncle. You need to respect me." And I was just kind of like, oh, that's kind of
meaning
weird.
Say, hi, how are you, sir? Instead of, hey, what's up, man? I mean, calm down.
But there are people who are like that.
I think it's a very old school way of thinking.
Yeah.
It's very, and we've talked about things, I think, multiple times in the run of our show so far, where we both are kind of, if not anti-traditionalists, we are pro-progression in things and moving beyond what tradition has always been and finding ways to make things different, new, and better. I don't know if I would. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm anti-tradition. That seems like an anarchist almost. But there are parts of me who will not do something just because. I won't do things just because it's tradition. You know,
right.
Does that make sense?
Tradition for tradition's sake. Like you need to examine just because something has existed, you need to be able to evaluate it. And
like I'm always going to put out milk and cookies for Santa because that's dope.
Yeah, but like I've sort of just been trying to examine that philosophically, of what respect is and because I think that you need to be able to judge someone on their actions, whether they are very high inside or outside of the military, whether they have high status or low status.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would argue that a baseline of respect is due to every single person. Mm-hmm. There's a level that you should treat everyone.
Right.
And then people can, earn or lose that level based on their actions.
Yeah, I agree. Like, fucking like respecting women, like thinking that women should vote. Like that goes to me. That goes beyond what respect is.
It's common sense.
Yeah. It's just that's human rights. It's like it goes. The fact that anybody might think otherwise, just to me that proves more to your own fucked up philosophies. Like there's something wrong with you.
Yeah. If you are a man and you think that a woman is lesser than because she's a woman, there's something that you need to examine within yourself.
Yes. Yeah. And it's a serious problem. But yeah, but I can still respect people, and yeah, there is that baseline, and you can lose it or gain it, depending on the type of person that you are. And I do respect people, but I would say that I look more into I try to look more into their actions, more than the people themselves.
So I'm trying to get at the core of what you're looking for,
because there's a lot of people that just believe that they deserve it, that they. Even without me knowing you, that they deserve even past that baseline.
Past the baseline.
Yeah.
And what is that? Like what do you have a specific example of anything, or is it just more, or is it just more because of the military?
Military is a huge part of it. I mean, entitlement goes into it as well.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, that's a big basis of because a lot of, especially fucking the generation above us, so the older generation believes that we're very entitled. But,
yeah.
But I mean, you're a server. How many times have you run into someone that was our age?
Never.
That
basically, I mean, off the top of my head, I can't. You will meet people that are our age that are not kind sometimes, but they're not. I wouldn't say they're entitled as often as people who are the older than us, and older than them. I would say even more so. There's this weird idea that if you make it to old age, you feel like you deserve more.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's weird. I mean, I like to think that I'm a pretty moral and good person. I think I treat pretty much everyone that I meet with if not respect, kindness,
and civility.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I think there's a weird, if you if I was working and you sat down and started demanding things of me, I haven't really experienced that in a direct way, but that would get really weird. I don't know how I would react to that. And I'm not a confrontational person, so I might just grin and bear it till they left. You know what I mean? That would be weird.
It's just something I was thinking about the semantics of respect, and the behaviors associated with it, and the how wrong am I for not immediately respecting someone just because they're older than me, because everyone says respect, you should respect your elders.
Respect your elders, yeah.
Right.
I don't know. I think as long as you have the baseline, that you should be fine. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're not going to walk up to someone and be disrespectful to them. But I guess that's also in context of their idea of what kind of respect they deserve.
Right.
Like you said about your friend who's an uncle. Mm-hmm. Why is he offended by someone saying, "Hey, what's up, man"?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know.
What is that?
Have to talk
it's like when you see a father who demands to be called sir by his son.
Right.
To me, that's weird.
See, that's something that like I went through with my own parents. Like anytime that I ever went, wherever I went with my parents, my dad would always say, "Now remember, be respectful. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes or no, sir."
I got that I was supposed to treat other adults like that when I was a kid, but never my own parents. I never called my dad sir. Unironically, I would goof around and call him sir, but I've never called him sir.
I called my dad sir, like, predominantly.
I called him dad.
I called him dad too. Yeah.
And I
called my mom ma'am.
I definitely don't. Like, I have a very respectful relationship with my parents. So I wouldn't
say that the majority of my interactions I was actually calling them sir or ma'am. Yeah. But if they told me to take out the trash or something like that, sir. Like, so, yeah, yeah. Occasionally, I would say yes, sir. Or I if I said all right, like he wouldn't.
Okay, they wouldn't get mad about that. No. Okay,
but there is situations like that, right? That you'll see in the military. Well, where even an example of it, where if you do something that's not disrespectful, but it's literally just a mistake, right? So in the military, you have enlisted personnel as well as you have officers, right? And they're under the umbrella of khakis, right?
Okay.
In the Navy, like we call them khakis because in their NSUs they don't wear black pants; they wear khaki pants.
Okay.
Right. So if you're an officer or a chief or above,
you get nicer pants.
You wear different color pants. But they're easy to mix up sometimes.
Okay.
Right. So say if and you're supposed to you're supposed to behave in different ways. I wouldn't say behave. You're supposed to treat yourself and do different things around officers.
In terms of like saluting and stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So you're supposed to salute officers, right?
Okay.
When you're walking by them and you're covered, right, you salute an officer. If you salute a chief might tear into you for that.
Because chiefs aren't supposed to be saluted?
Mm-hmm. Or chiefs aren't supposed to be saluted. You're only supposed to salute officers.
That's so weird to get mad at someone for treating you with the level of respect as someone ranked higher than you.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I don't deserve that. I'm not ranked as high. That's so silly to me.
But there's other examples too, like even within just the enlisted side of it. Mm-hmm. You know, there's certain types of chiefs and senior chiefs who, so literally the difference between a chief and a senior chief on their collar device is a star, right? You have an anchor with a star or just an anchor if you're a chief, right?
So that could be you might miss it.
You literally just might not see the fucking star,
yeah.
Right? And if you like accidentally call a senior chief a chief, some might just laugh it off. Some might be really, really cool about it. But others might be like what the fuck? My own brother has been chewed out for it. He told me a story about how he accidentally called a senior chief a chief on the ship, and he got chewed out for it. And to me, that's just like, fuck that person. I just don't vibe with that.
It's weird because the military is like this weird heightened sense of existence.
Mm-hmm.
It's its own culture of rules and stuff outside of normal life.
Well, and the system within the military itself justifies its assholes. So if you're an asshole within the military, you can always fall back on it's just the rules.
Yeah.
Oh well, this is the military, kids, suck it up, right? But you can also just be like, I've met master chiefs and captains and shit that were fucking cool as shit.
You had that really awesome boss you had in Jacksonville too that you loved.
Yeah, he was a civilian, was a previous chief.
Okay.
But he was in the military for 20 years and then retired. But I've met master chiefs that were amazingly approachable and down to earth, and we're not like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, and you'll meet first classes that are like that.
That's what you are, right?
Huh? No, I'm a second class.
Second class.
But you'll meet first classes that are very entitled too.
Really?
Yeah, because they're like prepping themselves to be a chief.
Yeah. It's like, well, the kid in high school who wants to be president one day.
Yeah.
It's like that same kind of trope
yeah.
of person. I just think it's like if the idea of like if I had never seen you and you were a senior chief and I was whatever you are, second class, and I called you chief and then you chewed me out and you'd never seen me before, it's so stupid. Like just be like, what's wrong with just being I'm a senior chief, just so you know. Like what's wrong with doing that?
Or like
now maybe if someone this is where context comes in. If somebody repeatedly does it to you,
right?
Or there's a way you can say it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's when you start crossing lines.
Mm-hmm.
But just the first time you ever met someone and you just don't catch the star, I mean, come on. Yeah. That's stupid.
Yeah.
That's just, it's over the top.
No, but I don't know. I never feel ashamed if something like that happens and I get chewed out for it. Like I'm more like, oh, okay, I know the type of person that you are now.
Yeah. You've shown me your true colors.
Yeah. And like, even if you do somehow like redeem yourself in other ways and you're for whatever reason, because you'll have that too. Like I'll see people who are like that will choose
you can have bad first impressions of people,
or you just have a bad day.
Yeah.
You just have a fucking bad day and you blow up on somebody. Yeah. I mean, I've done that with the people that I've worked with on the ship. I mean, I remember a specific moment where me and my buddy Fuentes were moving something. Shout out to Fuentes. We were moving something in Ox 1 and fucking, like it was like drawers or something. Mm-hmm. And like it got hooked and it tipped over and a bunch of bolts fell out or something stupid like that. Right. And I was pissed off at Fuentes. And I was just like, what the fuck, Fuentes? Like, I told you blah, blah, blah. And then, like an hour later, huh?
Were you on deployment?
I'm not sure if we were on deployment or not, but it was stressful. Yeah. You're on the ship, it's stressful. Yeah. And like, I mean, it's not justifiable, but like still an hour later, I was like, I'm sorry, dude, that shit, like it literally is not you. It is only my fucking emotion. And anytime that a majority of the time that I get yelled at when I'm in the Navy, I'm just like, oh, they probably just got shit on by their boss.
Mm-hmm. And then try not to carry it over to the next person.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's an interesting idea.
Well, the environment of the military is fucking bizarre. It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Obviously, I can't really relate to that half of it. I think that's where a lot of it comes for you. I think in general, just I think the baseline of being kind to people is kind of, if you're doing that, you shouldn't let people who get angry at you for being disrespectful or whatever, as long as you know that you're being the baseline level of kind that you should be, you should be completely comfortable with yourself.
Right.
Don't let like the random old dude that you meet at the grocery store that gets mad at you for like taking the box of cookies before him or something get in your head.
But I would say like a majority of people that are in that situation and kind of do things like that, feel very entitled they're not reacting to the situation that's currently happening. Mm-hmm. They are reacting to something previous to that, whether it is them being frustrated over something at home, whether it's them getting yelled at by their boss, whether it's them fighting against a narrative, right? A narrative that they're telling themselves. That
kind of an interesting example. When I was working in Gainesville, a dude sat at my table one day during lunch, and he was wearing a Navy hat. I think he was also wearing a Navy shirt, and he had like an anchor tattoo on his arm. I think it was right here. Oh. It's an older guy. And I remember seeing him and being like, okay, here we go. How's this going to go? And he was kind of gruff with me when I first, hey, how you doing? Blah, blah. And he was kind of, gruff answer. Right. He was one of those people that cuts you off during your spiel and tells you exactly what it's to drink.
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing? Give me this. And all right, dude. So I kind of had this idea. And then this dude ended up like hanging out for my whole shift. And I had like an hour-long conversation with him about a bunch of stuff. And he ended up being like this super cool dude. Mm-hmm. And he was like, he kept talking about, what did he say? I'm trying to remember what the hot political topic of the time was, but he was on the complete opposite side of what you would have expected when I first met him. And he brought it up like out of nowhere. He was like, this stuff that's been going on, this is what I think about it. And I was like, Really? All right, dude. All right. I misjudged you. All right. So like it's like that weird thing where not everyone is what they are right when you meet them.
Well, and a lot of people are trying to figure out who those types of people are. And it obviously exists on a spectrum, and sometimes it's completely off that spectrum. Sometimes it's on, like sometimes you're just having a bad day, whatever it is. But like, whenever I can feel it anytime that I show up to a new command, because people are trying to
figure out what kind of person you are.
A lot of people think that I'm very Joe Navy when I show up to like a new command.
Why?
I think it's just the way that I look.
But that's kind of weird because everyone in the Navy has to look a certain way. You have to meet the uniform guidelines, and your hair has to be a certain way. And
true that like there's all of those things that you can actually change about yourself. But I think like beyond that, like I am a fit dude with a square jaw. Like
that's true.
Yeah. I look more like
the idea of a military guy. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Like the jock stereotype is like
well, you've always hated that.
Yeah, I absolutely,
because you got that in high school.
Well, I don't know. I feel like I kind of got it from both sides, because I feel like I had people who thought I was more of a jock, because I did play a lot of sports. I mean, if that's
you wrestled, you played football.
If that's how you want to label a jock, then I was a jock in high school.
Yeah, I mean, you can label that as a jock, but we all know what jock means.
What is like? I was not the archetype of a jock. I always felt like I had more going on than that. At least I wanted to.
Yeah.
And I felt like there was a lot of people that thought that I was that, and then there was the actual jocks that thought I was a nerd, or a pussy, or whatever it was.
Yeah, it's different. It's different than being a nerd. It's this idea of like because I kind of got that from sports too. Because I played football and I was in band, so I had this crazy juxtaposition of high school life. And I think for the most part, I kind of skated through high school.
Being able to navigate through both.
I got along with kind of any kind of person that I met.
Yeah,
on a surface level. I didn't have a lot of close. I wasn't friends with a lot of people, but I was surface level, just cool with pretty much everybody. But there was like that level on both sides when it went above the normal level of those people would see you as like an outsider and would approach you in that way, and that's just always kind of weird.
Yeah.
I kind of think that our high school was pretty good about, I never felt like it was really cliquey or like bullying never seemed like a huge thing to me. I don't know. Maybe I just got this weird skate through experience, but I like when I see portrayals of high schools in like movies and TV shows, I'm always like, man, I'm glad my high school wasn't like that.
I never saw physical bullying happen.
No, I never did.
Verbal,
I mean, there were some
there
were some fights, but it wasn't bullying.
No. There's a difference.
It wasn't like
it
wasn't like an athlete picking on a nerdy kid or something. It was always just like two people who were throwing down.
I've definitely seen athletes picking on a nerdy kid. Absolutely.
In a physical sense?
Not in a physical sense.
Yeah, I don't think I ever saw that either.
No. Verbal, absolutely.
I got kind of in the opposite way. There was a kid when we were seniors. There was a kid who was in band, and I think he was a freshman, and he, for some reason, there's some context that needs to be involved. I was not in marching band, even though being in band, you had to be in marching band. But because I was on the varsity football team, I didn't have to do it. Thank God. I hated marching band. But I was in jazz band. I loved jazz band. So I didn't, from junior and senior year, I didn't know almost any of the freshmen and sophomores below because I wasn't in that class. That was the fourth block class. I was in the first block class.
Right.
I went in after school one day to meet up with some friends. And I walked into a room and I said, and this kid looked at me, made this noise, and then ran into another room. And I was like, huh? What just happened? Who is that?
Yeah.
And none of our friends really there. Like, I don't know. He's some freshman. And then I had to go into my band locker to get something. And he ran out of the room again. And I was like, what is it with this kid? And I ended up finding out later that he, for some reason, said that I bumped into him in a hallway once and then told him to get out of my way. And I was like, there's no way in hell that I did that. There's no way that was me. I mean, you know me, and you knew me in high school. There's no way that was me. Mm-hmm. But I did have this. I mean, you know, I'm a bigger dude, and I played football. I mean, I don't know what that came from, but that always weirded me out. Just that sort of weird relationship with someone didn't know, thinking that about me. I was like, there's no way I did that. In a million gazillion years.
I like to think that there's like a call out there with like a mustache that's just your evil doppelganger.
He just bumps into people and tells them to get
out of my way.
I always felt
goes
that
out of
that.
his way to bump into other people.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know, but yeah, that always I always felt bad about it. But it's kind of that alternate. Did he think that I was like this weird version of that? I don't know. Mm-hmm. That kind of freaked me out a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're still talking about respect. I think we started talking about bullying. I don't know.
Oh, I think we were talking about like how people judge you. You know?
Oh yeah.
You know, how people approach who you are and try to
just based on the way you look.
Well, like it's easy for people to clump things together. You know, it's just people naturally. It's just a part of psychology.
Well, and it's also not only psychology; it's science. It's survival instinct of making an impression of someone when you see them and how you need to react to them.
Yeah.
That's just animalistic survival.
Yeah, judgment, but like chunking information. Information is chunking is a psychological principle. You know, that you're able to take information better when it's all group them. That's why a telephone number is, you know, 3 numbers, 4 numbers, right? Because if it was
all one, it'd be harder to remember.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's easier to be like, oh, well, that's the jock, that's the nerd. Yeah. You know, she's the cheerleader. And you're assigning all of these archetypes to people that you don't even know.
You don't know them at all.
Like, I mean, even within my own job, I have people calling me like frat boy.
Well, yeah, because you dress nice.
But here's the thing: I don't dress in civilian clothes at work.
Yeah, that's true.
All I do is wear a uniform.
Yeah, that's
weird. And I look like a frat boy.
It's the hair.
But
you have a hat on.
But it's the same. But it's the same thing. But it's the same thing as like people thinking that I'm Joe Navy. It's sort of the same thing.
It's those traditional good looks. Ching, ching, ching. Yeah, man. I don't know. I don't know if I can help you, man. I don't know if I can help you grasp respect. You don't have enough respect for me.
I don't know. The only thing that you really that is important is how you interact with people, right?
Yeah.
Like no matter how you're labeling respect and how you're labeling these behaviors, you should be civil with people. I think it's good to be kind. I think it's good to be polite to an extent. Yeah.
I wonder if is there a weird distinction between kindness and respect? Because to me, they're one and the same. If I'm being nice to you, I'm being respectful to you.
I would say that there's a line in between them. I think on the surface level, they can be seen as the same thing. As if I am being kind to you, you know, if you're my waiter, right? If you're my server, you know, me being kind to you and saying my please and thank yous and stuff is me respecting you as a human being. So I think that it does coincide, but there are certain things that, like, you know, like say if you have a legit problem with your life or something, or say okay, writing, right? So I would say that if I respect you as your friend and as an artist, you know, I should be able to give you constructive feedback, whether it's kind or not.
And me not know you're attacking me as a person.
Exactly. And it may not be kind, you know.
I think you still do it in a kind way.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't go, you're trash, you'll always be trash.
No, that's how you got to do it, dude. Fucking, you gotta
break them down and build them back
up. Fucking J.K. Simmons, dog. The most.
Are you rushing or dragging?
Are you rushing or dragging? The most dangerous words in the English language are "good job."
Great movie. Whiplash.
But yeah, I mean, for me, I think with interacting with artists, I think that it is respectful to provide constructive criticism if they do want it.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of potential to be gained that is actually lost from people evading their own honesty.
Criticism.
Yeah, constructive criticism. People evading honesty for the sake of politeness.
That's a good point. I like that. I like it a lot. You have any sports stuff you want to talk about?
Klay Thompson.
Baller. Headband Klay.
Okay, Doc, I heard something this morning, fucking listened to a different podcast, and it blew my fucking mind. But I'm like, I mean, it does make sense with the way that Klay plays.
Okay.
So he scored how many points?
52 in 3 quarters?
He scored
he
scored over
quarters?
50 points in less than 30 minutes.
Yeah, 27 minutes, I think, something like that.
Right, which is insane in
it's
itself.
Bonkers.
How much time do you think that Klay had possession of the basketball?
Oh, like a minute. Because that dude...
Dog, 96 seconds. How insane is that?
That's crazy.
In 96, he was able to have the ball for 96 seconds
and score
in his possession and score 52 points. That is insane to me.
Yeah, it's bonkers.
That is so crazy impressive.
He hit 14 threes. I mean, that's what, like 6 or 7... I mean, and then he had a couple other shots he hit. So that's like, what, maybe 8 or 9... Wait, what is the math I'm trying to do? Oh, God. Oh, God. I'm trying to... How many, like, points per second he was scoring? It was, like, an ungodly amount. It's stupid.
Yeah, it's crazy impressive, and it's obviously that he is able to do that because of the way that he plays.
It's the play style, yeah.
I mean, he's a catch and shooter.
Yeah. And he's...
If you're doing catch and shoot, I mean...
And he's arguably the best ever at it.
Right.
And the only other person who you could argue isn't better than him is on his team.
That quote that from Steve Kerr about how he was sitting on the sidelines and Klay was saying, "2 more, I need two more threes," and
Kerr was like, "Wait, who is he close to the record?" And he looked at Steph. He was like, "Do you have the record?" And Steph was like, "Yeah." And then the really cool thing about that team is Steph was like, "Yo, go break that record."
Fucking, I forgot who it was that was on the Zach Lowe podcast that talked about it, but he used the term "embarrassment of riches," and I was like, "That is the fucking
them.
Golden State
Warriors." Have you heard how they talked to Kevin Durant this season? Because there's all the talk about how Kevin Durant might leave next year in free agency. They went and played the Knicks like last week, and apparently Andre Iguodala, like when they got there, he was like, "Welcome home, Kevin." Like they have there's this weird contrast that Kevin Durant's talked about, the approach to his free agency and how it was different from when he was on the Thunder. When he was on the Thunder, it was like taboo to even talk about it. Like, don't even bring it up. Just hope he doesn't leave. And now they just mess with him. And I think
they're also in more dire straits in OKC.
I think part of it is that they kind of know they don't need him to win. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. They're just like, if Kevin leaves, all right. We had a good run with him.
I mean, if he leaves, they still more or less have a 73-win team.
Yeah.
I mean, they're older.
They're older
than a 73-win team.
They are still a finals contender without Kevin Durant. Yeah, it's crazy.
But on top of
that, we'll get to see fun Steph more often.
But on top of that, they've already done it.
Yeah.
They've already won the championship.
Didn't they win 2? Or they went to 2 without him, won one of them. Because LeBron beat them once. Right?
KD's won 2.
I'm talking about the Warriors before KD got there. They went to 2 championships without him, I think.
Yes, but won one of them. The 2016, LeBron beat them without KD.
Yeah. Did Klay win? I mean, that's on top. Last week we talked about how bonkers the first week and a half of basketball. That just added on top of it. It's just been more insanity. Mm-hmm. It's been fun, man.
Atomic nuclear.
Yeah.
Do you think that the
Inferno?
Who do you think has more of a chance? I wouldn't say who has more of a chance to get to the finals, but who do you think has more of a chance to beat the Warriors in the Eastern Conference?
Right now? If we're talking about right now, the Celtics would be third if we're talking about right now. And then it would come down to the Bucks, who look amazing, and the Raptors, who look crazy good with Kawhi. And I don't know who I would pick.
I would choose the Bucks.
Maybe.
As good as their defense is, I
don't want to commit that hard to them until we see a bigger sample size of their success.
Sure.
I think, 8 games or whatever they've played isn't enough to crown them, to jump them up those 2 spots. And I don't think 8 games of not being 8-0 is enough to say the Celtics aren't the best team in the East.
Absolutely. I'm overreacting to how good they are right now. Yeah. But
plus teams are going to adjust to how they play them as they see the new way that Coach Budenholzer is implementing the offense.
Well, that and just the fact that they might go cold.
Yeah, certainly.
That like the way that they play aids to them. They might just fall on their own sword.
Yeah.
And live
by the 3, die by the 3.
As many threes as they're taking this season, they might just lose it. Yeah. They might go cold.
They've got really good shooters.
Mm-hmm. And they've got really good shooters, and they have multiple of them, and then they also have experience. They have younger guys. They have
very versatile lineup,
and they have a fucking horse. They've got Giannis.
Yeah.
They have,
and they have a dude who could be an all-star in Chris Middleton. Mm-hmm. Chris Middleton's great.
Yeah,
and they have White Dante,
the fucking reigning champion of them all, dude.
White Dante. Heck yeah. I have another sports thing. I don't know if you've heard about this at all. There is a player over the offseason in college football. I'm not going to remember any of the names, but he played for Maryland, and he died. He was brought to the hospital after a practice, and in the hospital he died. And I think it was dehydration or something along those lines.
Okay.
So the NCAA was doing this long look into Maryland and the culture of not just the football program, but the athletic program in general. They were looking into the head coach. They're looking into the athletic director. They were looking into the school itself, all this stuff. And a couple days ago, a final ruling came out from Maryland, and they essentially were like, we're not firing anybody. The only people they let go of were the athletic trainer, and then there's 2 guys on administrative leave that were like assistant trainers, and they were like the only people that were let go. The head coach got to keep his job. The AD kept his job. The president of the university came out and said, essentially, I can't fire them because the regents of the school said they would fire me if I did.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
What the hell? That's some Wilson Fisk shit.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I was listening to the Tony Kornheiser podcast this morning, and he had on a writer from the Washington Post who's been, obviously they're right there near Maryland. He's been doing a lot of work, writing stories about all this, and the dude was just flabbergasted. He couldn't believe you could almost hear his anger while they were talking about how nothing had happened. How could this coach keep his job? Obviously it's tragic what happened, but even in a sports way of thinking about it, he's like 10-25 in his career or something. He's like 10-20 or something.
Right.
And he's the football coach at Maryland. Uh-huh. Who really cares about football at Maryland outside of Maryland? Right. They're not this big
powerhouse
school. They're not a powerhouse. They're not a big traditional school.
Not Alabama.
They're not even a football school. They're more of a basketball school than football.
Uh-huh.
And apparently there was this whole thing with money, and they just moved into the Big Ten, so they were getting that Big Ten cash, and they didn't want to. I don't know what it is, but this dude was couldn't believe that they were letting this guy keep his job. Well, literally right before we started recording, I saw that the backlash in the last 24 hours, essentially, they fired him.
They did?
They did.
Okay.
Yeah, but it took basically all of sports media being like, you're insane.
Mm-hmm. For not firing
him.
Right.
Yeah. I think it brings up this bigger idea of toxic culture in college sports. And basically the conclusion they came to with the internal investigation they was that the things happening here aren't any more toxic or different than what happened at other schools. And that's why they weren't firing him. That's crazy to me.
So what are the specific things that you're talking about that are toxic? What is this toxic nature that you're
well, apparently the way they treat the kids, and they are kids.
Mm-hmm.
Call it athlete. I mean, yes, you're 18, but you're a kid in the modern world. 30 is a new 18. The way that they would like yell at, like what's that movie Coach Faye used to make us watch in high school?
The Program.
The Program. Remember they would like yell and they're just like over the top, ruthless. It's like that. It's like that comedic idea of a football coach yelling at their players and degrading their players and calling them different inappropriate things and then on top of that, practicing them for too long and not letting them have water and doing the same thing in their training sessions in the weight room. Like all this stuff was apparently just really not only dangerous, but like belittling to them as humans was the way they were treating the athletes. And one of the things this guy from the Washington Post brought up was that DJ Durkin, which is the name of the coach, that's the only name I remember. DJ Durkin worked for Jim Harbaugh and Urban Meyer. And the thing that it kind of brought up was like, is this what they're doing? Is this what their program is? Because where did he learn it from? If he didn't learn it from his mentors,
right?
And these are pillars of college football. Michigan and Ohio State and Urban Meyer and Jim Harbaugh are like gods amongst coaches in college football. And we have a sentimental connection to Urban Meyer because we're Gator fans and his time at Florida. But if you look into his era at Florida, there was a lot of really sketchy stuff, especially with his athletes being criminals a lot. So many Florida athletes in his time as the coach were arrested for stuff. And the pinnacle of that is Aaron Hernandez, who was arrested and tried for 2 different murder crimes and was guilty. So, there's this, and obviously the newest thing with Urban Meyer was the cover-up of this coach that was physically assaulting his girlfriend or whatever. That's just the newest thing with him. It's this weird thing where I feel like, when we were in high school and we had this rosy image of what Urban Meyer was, were we buying into just this false front of, him being this kindly, soft-spoken man? You know what I mean? It's this weird thing.
Well, I think you have to be careful both ways. You have to be careful whether you're idealizing someone, because
or vilifying someone.
Yeah, or vilifying someone. But there might be something that drops tomorrow about LeBron James.
Yeah.
God,
that would be tragic.
I would fucking cry.
Yeah,
I would
tragic.
Yeah, it would suck. It would suck. Because you want to believe in the positive. You want to be in the best.
It's kind of like when John Jones first got in trouble. It's that shock level.
Yeah.
Being like, wait, what? That person?
Right. And you want to believe in the best in people. But you also don't want to be like no one wants to be a chump,
Yeah.
Like no one wants to be the person that buys in and was being naive the entire time. And I think there isn't enough information in order to correctly evaluate who Urban Meyer is and what his morality is like. I don't know.
From all fronts, as an individual, he seems like a good man.
Right.
But then you just find out about these other things and it shadows that. It's weird.
I think it potentially shadows it, but I
think the thing with the coach definitely does.
I don't know enough about it.
His wife knew about it and he didn't.
I legit don't know. I'm not as well informed about the whole Urban Meyer situation and it was his assistant coach that was
the wide receivers coach, and it was a person who played for him too when he was younger.
Okay,
and he literally had brought him up throughout his career,
right,
along with him to different schools, and it came out that he was accused of I think beating his girlfriend. She accused him of it, and then all this information came out, and then it came out that Urban Meyer may have known about it and one, kept employing him, and two, didn't report him. And then the way it ended up resolving, he got suspended, I think, for 3 or 4 games at the beginning of this season. But what ended up happening was it was like that his wife knew about it and he didn't or something. And that seems
sketchy.
Cover-uppy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Skeptical.
Skeptical hippo face.
Mm-hmm. I ain't buying that. Yeah, I don't know, man. I would have to look more into it, but like a lot of the times, being able to gauge something like that, being able to gauge all of these things that are happening through third parties and through it's
yeah, because you have to take all your information in through media, basically through sports media.
Yeah, and the only like hard evidence that you're really getting is like you see him on video and you know the post-fight press conferences when he's talking about his different athletes and stuff, like he's talking about football and he seems like an all right guy. But and there could also be he could be the worst person on the planet, you know.
But yeah, I was happy to, because I was going to bring up the Maryland thing no matter what. I was intending to bring it up in terms of like, you know, rage at how nothing could happen, but literally right before we started recording, I saw on Twitter that he'd been fired. Yeah. But I still thought it was just an interesting story.
Right.
Just that level of insanity that a kid died. And the other crazy part, apparently they didn't even tell his parents for like multiple days.
Whoa.
Yeah. They didn't even know he was in the hospital.
That's fucked up.
They didn't even know he was in the hospital.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I mean, because I don't know, you know, if he died of dehydration. Is it from incompetence? Is it from them pushing him too hard? Did he have already like pre-existing medical conditions?
Yeah,
I don't know. Like,
neither of us know enough about the story to speak on all that stuff.
Right.
We just know the end result. But yeah, I heard that this morning and I was like, they didn't even tell his parents that he was in the hospital for multiple days. That's crazy. And then just from a sports perspective in college football, how can you keep employing this guy when now he's supposed to go into the homes of 17-year-old kids and look at their parents and say, you can entrust your kid's next 4 years to me? How could anyone let their kid go there?
Right.
It's crazy. So I'm glad that he's fired.
True.
Now we can confirm that. That's good.
I really got to piss, dude. Can we take a break, come back and do shout-outs?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
We back.
We back
For shout-outs.
You want to go first or me?
I'll go first. My shout-out. Okay, so last episode I went on a very impassioned spiel about D&D. So my shout-out this week is for a YouTube channel and a person named Matt Colville, Colville. Matt Colville is so he used to work as a video game writer. He's also an independent fantasy author. He has 2 dope books called Priest and Thief. Check those out. That's part of this. Those are all on Amazon. But he also has a YouTube channel where he basically, I think I might have mentioned him, he basically tailors his channel to teaching people how to run D&D, and his goal is to try to show people that it's not that hard.
Okay.
He has a series of videos on there called Running the Game, where he breaks down different thesis ideas, or just kind of general ideas, and he just talks about the game and different ways to approach running it, playing it, all this kind of stuff. But the thing that is kind of special about Matt is jokingly referred to as the king of Kickstarter, because he, using his YouTube channel, promoted his Kickstarter to write a supplementary book for Dungeons & Dragons called Strongholds and Followers, and he raised over $1 million to write a D&D book.
What was his initial goal?
I think it was like 50,000 or something. It was low. Much lower than $1 million. So basically the Kickstarter,
even 50,000 seems high.
Yeah, that I might have been overshooting that in an attempt to undershoot it. I don't know. But his he had 2 prongs basically. He wanted to enough money to make the book, and then he wanted enough money to fund a stream for his D&D game, because D&D games being streamed online is a huge rage right now in the D&D community, and he wanted to be able to put his own stream on the internet and incorporate it into his YouTube channel and make videos about it and all this. Being, people can learn through his mistakes and see how he preps things and all this kind of stuff. Then making so much money that he started a company called MCDM, Matt Colville Dungeon Master. He employs some of his closest friends now that work with him, and they have their own studio and their own space and everything. And he is a super cool dude. I mean, even if you just people who like to talk about movies and writing, he's a cool guy.
How is his company associated with Critical Role? Is he just is he somebody that's on Critical Role?
No.
Or is he completely not affiliated?
So he has nothing to do with Critical Role. He is very good friends with Liam O'Brien,
okay,
and Matt Mercer, who are on Critical Role.
Okay.
He knows them because he was a video game writer. He worked very closely with Liam, who does voice directing as well as voice acting. Liam voice directed one of his games. So they were in the studio together for a long time, and they were directing people.
Okay.
So that's how he knows them. And then the reason he kind of blew up bigger than he already was because they mentioned him on Critical Role. They mentioned his name in his channel.
Oh, nice.
And that's kind of how he exploded. And then he's become his own animal at this point. But yeah, and he's kind of planning on doing some other cool things with his channel now. He's not just going to run D&D. He wants to run other RPGs. He wants to bring in other people to run games on his channel. He wants to he has another section of the studio devoted, I think he calls it makers. So he wants to bring in cosplayers and people who build props and all these kind of people who who build things and do things with their hand. He wants to showcase that kind of side of nerddom on his channel as well. So he has a lot of cool stuff. He's a very insightful guy outside of just D&D, but in general, I think he's just a super interesting and insightful person. I love his books, Priest and Thief. Hit him up on Twitter. You can follow him on Twitter at Matt Colville. The YouTube
you said
channel.
He streams. Is he on Twitch?
He does stream on Twitch. Yeah, at Matt Colville. He streams. Generally, he'll do. So they are currently in the process of prepping for their game stream. So they play board games once a week on their stream for fun to try to get all the kinks worked out of their streaming. And he also streams randomly. He'll just be like, "Hey, I'm hopping online and playing NetHack," which is this super old video game that he plays. And he does this thing. There's this thing called a Time Rider, which I don't know how to explain. It's a thing where you can make music, but it's weird as hell. And it's his favorite hobby. So he's like, "I'm going to hop online and run the Time Rider and play some NetHack." And then he just kind of interacts with chat. And
Time Rider?
Yeah, I don't know how to explain a Time Rider to you because I know nothing about it. But it's a way to make music electronically.
Is it like an instrument?
No.
Okay.
No, you put modules in. It's crazy.
Okay.
And the other thing, he will often release a YouTube video on a Tuesday, and be like, here's our YouTube video on is it okay to play an evil character? And then he'll hop on Friday. He'll be like, on Friday, I'm going to hop on Twitch and we're going to talk for an hour and a half, and you can ask me questions about the video. So he does different Twitch streams, and I think he plans on having the game streamed on Twitch.
Nice.
But he puts basically anything that he thinks is relevant content he puts on his YouTube channel as well. So Matt Colville, literally everywhere. YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. Check him out. He's dope. And in honor of him, peace out. What's yours? That's his sign out.
We're not actually signing out yet.
Yeah, he always goes, peace out.
Okay. My shout out for this week is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Not Victor Frankenstein.
No, Viktor Frankl. It was actually a book that was recommended to me by one of my many therapists. But it's basically about this. It's not a novel. It's a nonfiction book. And the author details the first maybe 3/4 of the book is him detailing his life inside of when he was a prisoner in Auschwitz.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the last quarter of the book, the second part of the book, is about this theology that he had, this thesis of psychotherapy that he had, that he believes was able to get him through these tough times of suffering in Auschwitz. And it's really interesting. His theory is called logotherapy, but it's basically about the way that the easiest way for me to describe how to think of it is through a Nietzsche quote. And the quote is, he who has a why to live can bear almost any how. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. So if you have a reason for living, if you can find that meaning, you can bear almost any type of suffering that falls upon you.
Okay.
It's a fucking really fascinating book, obviously, because of he has a firsthand account of all of the deprivation of fucking mankind and of humanity,
of the worst of the worst,
of literal fucking hell on earth. And how he was able to get through that, not only survive but maintain his identity and essence of life. I suppose. So it was a really interesting book. It was something that like helped me out a lot, but just because of the shit that I've gone through with my own mental health, and that was fucking really interesting. Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl.
Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl. Matt Colville. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Hit us up on the socials. Hit Chris up at his website, chrismichaelstott.com, on Instagram, chrismichaelstott. Find me, davinwell25, on Twitter and Instagram. Find the show at The Chris and Kyle Show all over the place. tcaks pod on Twitter, Chris and Kyle Show on Instagram and Facebook. Vote on the polls for this month's spoiler episode that you guys are going to pick between Creed 2 and Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Not Ralph Breaks the Internet.
I got there.
You got it.
Look forward this week to our Daredevil spoiler episode. Very excited about that. Great show. I think that's it. Is that everything?
Yeah, sounds like it's it. Let's get out of here.
We out.
We out. Stay weird.